Well, without further ado, Casey. Let me introduce Casey. Casey is an Army veteran. He is the former owner of J-Don Construction. I don't know how much you're going to talk about, so I'm going to steal a lot of your thunder. But I met him a couple of years ago at a Chamber of Commerce event, and we hit it off, and we've been connected for a while. He now has a new business that's veteran focused and donates a portion of the proceeds from their profit to Gallant Fuse. So we appreciate his support. I appreciate your friendship and your leadership in the community, and I'm eager to hear what you have to say.
Cool. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Casey Lawrence. Yeah, like Carl said, I used to own a business here locally, J-Dog Junk Removal. Some of y'all may know it, some of y'all may not. Camouflage, bulldog, everything. I'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah. So I was in the Army for 6 years. I joined when I was 18, at prime age to believe anybody, right? And I really want to say thank you to Carl and Zach for having me here, because I don't think I've ever really shared like my story. I don't know if it's like a really good story or not, but you know, I think everybody here has a story, and it kind of makes who you are and who you become. It's all based on where you've been. I was like a rough child, you know, like very, very stubborn, getting in trouble at school.
That's hard for me.
I know. I had a problem with authority, right? I was very smart. I got bored at school. That was my main issue. And I ended up getting expelled, kicked out of school 3 months before my graduation because I took a swing at my principal. Yeah, landed it too. But, you know, it was a rough time because I was mixed up. I thought I knew better than my parents and the leaders in my life. So there was about 6 months where I was just like kind of doing whatever I wanted. I was out of the house. My dad pretty much told me, hey, you don't want to follow my rules, you can live somewhere else. I took that as get out of my house, like every kid does. Even though he didn't kick me out, I just took it that way. So I moved in with a friend of mine, and then after like a couple months, I realized like I'm not going anywhere. This is terrible. So I decided to join the Army. My dad was in for 22 years. I want to go there too. Why not do it? So I remember I went to the recruiting station and asked him, what's your hardest job? He said infantry. I said, sign me up. He said, cool. And I failed 3 drug tests at the recruiting station, week after week after week. And I remember he was like, what is your problem? I'm like, I don't know. I like to party with my friends, right? And he's like, okay, we'll come back next week, drink a lot of water, blah, blah, blah. Don't smoke anything. I said, all right, cool. So what I do, I went out, smoked with my friends. Went back to the recruiting station, failed another drug test. He's like, I can't send you to MEPS. And I'm like, well, what do I got to do? He's like, I've already told you this. So finally I did it. All right, I got to do the right thing. And I did it and went to MEPS. Joined the Army. I was like August of 2007. And the cool thing about it, I tell everybody this, the first thing I ever did that was the best thing for me was join the Army. The second best thing was getting out. In that order, right? The reason why is because it made me who I am, but I couldn't have found out who I am without getting out of the Army. You know, I deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, you know, did my times over there, and I learned that there's a reason most people are in at a young age. It's because you're very impressionable. You're a sponge. You soak up everything, and that's what I did. I followed my leadership. I followed everybody else, and you know, it was one of the best experiences of my life. I met a lot of great people. Did a lot of things no one ever does really, unless you're in those situations. Iraq was kind of different for me because we were kind of there at the tail end of all the craziness. We saw some things, but it was mostly just every day, go out, walk around a long time, and then come back, work out, do it all over again. And I was actually going to get out of the Army after 4 years. I was just going to call it quits. I got married. I met a girl. We got married. We were married a year to the day. And then that's when I found out she left me after I got back from Iraq. And I came home to an empty house. But it was vacuumed. I got to give her that. It was clean. One less thing. But so I was like, well, now I don't know what to do. So what do we all do when we don't know what to do? We sign up for more years, right? So I decided to extend my contract because we just got orders coming up. I'll go to Afghanistan. Why not? So then we went to Afghanistan in 2012, and it was completely different than Iraq. It was like 100%, this is not what we've been training for the past 5 years. You know, everything changed. The way our movements worked, and we were in a striker brigade. Iraq, we use strikers all the time. That's 8-wheel vehicles that carry personnel. And in Afghanistan, you can only use them to a certain point because the terrain was so different, right? So they just drop you off on the road. All right, walk. Well, it's like, well, why do we even take the strikers, right? So it was a huge wake-up call for a lot of us, especially, you know, us young ones who were, at the time, I think I was 22 in Afghanistan. We were in Panjwai, which is south of Kandahar, and we didn't know at the time until right after we arrived, but there was this huge deal that happened 6 months before we got there. A guy went off, he went crazy. There was a huge massacre called the Belém Bay Massacre, right? There's a lot to the story, I'm sure, but apparently one guy went out and killed like 14 women and children in the middle of the night by himself, and then ended up burning the bodies as well by himself. He's in prison now. So we were there as the welcome party. They had 6 months to prepare for us, and they're like, hey, it's party time. I mean, you can finally come to these cities now that you've been restricted for 6 months, and they've been waiting for us, you know. The third day we were there, they did a test on our cob, like they always do. Whenever you do right seat, left seat, a unit comes in replacing one unit, they always want to test you. All right, well, where's their weaknesses at? Let's go ahead and throw them some rockets and some small arms, and let's see if how they take this. So third day was our wake-up call. I was working out at the gym, which is pallets under a tent, and rockets started going over our heads and explosions, and at first you're like, this is weird. What is that? Then you realize, oh, we're getting attacked. That's awesome. So what do? Well, react. So you just grab your weapon and run to the wall and start returning it. This is kind of where everything changed for me in the military. I reacted great. I grabbed my weapon, went straight to the wall, got up on a tower, and I returned fire like I was supposed to. Right next to me was my first sergeant at the time, and he was doing the same thing. This first sergeant was brand new. We didn't know him. He came from another unit. It was very weird, but it is what it is. That's the Army. Well, during the returning, you know, during the firefight, which only lasts like 5 minutes, but it felt about 2 hours is what it feels like, you know. We had motorcycles going around us, and all they're doing is just shooting at us. They're not aiming, they're just shooting and going, shooting and going. First sergeant called out one of the motorcycle riders. I shot one round, hit the dirt, shot two after that after I readjusted, and I hit the target. Motorcycle fell, big cloud of dust, got him. About a minute later, things started just calming down, and they brought us a body to the gate and a motorcycle. But they also brought us a kid. The kid was about 8 years old and bleeding all over his chest. The rider was not moving. But the biggest thing was the kid was there and the dead body was there, but there was no weapon. Now, at the time, we had this huge thing in the sky called a blimp. It records everything. You can see for miles. It's insane. But they weren't using it like they're supposed to. They're using it pretty much to make sure that whoever's out on mission is in dress code. Like, hey, why are your guys' sleeves rolled up? Oh my gosh, really? That's what you're using this $5 million balloon for. But anyways, they got all this on camera, apparently. That's what saved my butt, because I remember after all the processes, you bring it in. Kid's fine, by the way, just graze wound. But we brought him in, and my sergeant major immediately called me to the office, to battalion, whatever. Went in there with my team leader, or my squad leader, and you know, he just laid into me. What happened? You're a POS. You're a disgrace to the Army. I'm like, I missed something. Why? Like, why am I such a bad person? Well, my first sergeant told him that I shot an unarmed civilian as well as a kid. And I'm like, well, where's the first sergeant at? I want to, like, this isn't to make sense to me. So after that, the first sergeant came in, and it was a big deal. He's throwing out a lot of things that, as a 22-year-old vet, at the time, active duty infantryman, you don't want to hear this stuff. Like, what do you mean? I'm going to get in trouble? This much trouble? Well, the only thing that saved me was a civilian contractor who was also with us. We called him Captain America because he always wore his hat like this, right? He had a vest, long blonde hair, never did what he was supposed to do, ever. Whenever we go out on any kind of patrol, I mean, he's the guy, this is how he carries his weapon. All right, let's do this. And he had like civilians that he was in charge of that didn't speak English. So he was he was Captain America. He would run into an explosion and somehow come out unscathed. But he had my back, and he told me everything that happened. And then he said, hey, don't worry, we recovered the weapon. And I was like, really? How did they recover? Well, that's what he does. That's why he's there. They recovered the weapon. He did sworn statements, everything. So I was good. I was in the clear. But the biggest thing I saw was how much things turned on me doing my job like I was trained to do, out of my control from a leadership position from my first sergeant, right? He would throw me under the bus the second he could. Didn't know him. So a couple weeks after that, a couple more firefights here and there. I was a 60 gunner on a mortar team. So we got to do a lot of cool stuff. We got to hang with the snipers, got to do some air assault missions. I think we were attached to a couple SEAL teams over there. They loved our 60s, and we loved hanging out with those guys. We were on an air assault mission in the middle of this weird part of the desert of Afghanistan, and obviously something went awry. Firefight happened. Got back to the Cobb, and once again, this same first sergeant threw another lower enlisted under the bus, saying that he was doing something wrong. He was a 240 gunner, right? That he was just firing. And I remember thinking, like, this guy is out to get someone for some reason. He ended up getting fired, gets sent to battalion in Mossamgar, thank God. But it showed us a lot. It showed us that everybody has an agenda, especially in the military. You don't know that. You think we're all on the same side, we're all brothers. For the most part, we are. But like anything, there's always that bad egg. Unfortunately for us, the bad egg was in charge of all of us, right? On top of that, most of our officers were brand new. Everybody we had in Iraq, we loved, we needed. But they were gone. In Afghanistan, it was all brand new people. Our PLs were either butter bars or they just got their first lieutenant badge. I mean, they are brand new. The West Pointers that showed up, never saw anything more than a fist fight in a bar. And yet they're with us, in charge of us. And now we have to somehow lead them into battle without them getting, too far ahead of themselves. So for the most part, it went really like it was expected. I ended up getting medevaced 4 months after. Got blown up a couple times. And the last one was kind of it for us. So got medevaced. All in all, when I left, there was 27 amputees total in our battalion. 6 KIAs, but the amputees is what got us. A lot of people lost limbs in the area we were in, all because new leadership, bad intel. We had no idea where we were getting into, and the people that we had weren't briefed right because they were brand new. So I won't take up too much of your time with that story, but all in all, I ended up getting out in 2013, 24 years old, had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I'm divorced, okay? As a 24-year-old, been to 2 different wars, and I'm divorced. I'm like, man, it's like that bad date with all that baggage. I'm that person. So obviously I didn't know what to do. So I got my CDL. I got my truck driver's license, decided I'll just drive trucks, make some money. Got a job in Seattle, was there a month and a half before a buddy called me who was in North Dakota. Hey man, I saw you got your CDL. Come out here, the money's here. I was like, easy, done, I'll do it. Put my 2 weeks in. 2 days later I left. I was like, yeah, I'm not waiting 2 weeks. I bought an RV, I bought a truck, and I drove to North Dakota to go make money in the oil field. I'm gonna tell you right now, it was insane. I thought I had seen it all. Go to North Dakota for a year and run crude oil. And you're gonna realize real quick, it's either for you or it's not. Now, I was there for about a year, summer, winter. The winter time, I've never seen anything like it. negative 35. I mean, it was terrible for us, but the money was good. When you're pulling in $5,000 a week and you're that young, it's great. The one thing you don't understand is you're that young, making that much money. It's like the military all over again. You don't know what to do with it, so you spend it. Oh, I'm gonna get a new truck. I'm gonna do this, and then you're broke. So I was with a girl at the time, and we weren't happy, so we ended up moving back to Texas. I'm from here. I love Texas. There's oil in Texas. I was like, let's move to Texas. So we went to South Texas. I got a job working for a truck company, and then I got another job working for Marathon as a production operator. Then they fired me 2 weeks before Christmas along with 6 other people, saying our performance was bad. Come to find out, that was the beginning of the crash. I was the only person of those 6 that didn't have a family, like, to support at the time. They all did. They were just numbers. We got to get rid of people. So I felt really bad. So I got back into trucking. Hey, you know what? I'm my own boss kind of thing. I mean, I have one other guy who runs numbers. And then the oil field crashed. And I got a call from the owner. Hey, we got to talk. We got to drop you from our insurance, so that means we got to let you go. And I'm like, why? He gave me this long reason I didn't understand. And here's the thing. That company was paying for a fully furnished apartment for me as well. So they controlled everything. They controlled my housing and my income. So now I was like, well, now what do I do? So I guess I'll move back up to DFW and maybe I'll figure something out. I came up here. Man, it didn't take long before I realized I had no idea what I was doing. Again, starting over, number 4. This is the 4th time starting over. So I'm living in an RV. I'm getting evicted from RV parks because I can't make rent. I get a job at a dealership, right? Car dealership. And it was okay. I was doing good, but the problem was the lifestyle was terrible. I'm already back to dark times, and I realized I was like, okay, this isn't right for me. I can't be getting in trouble, getting arrested for some stupid stuff. And that's where I realized I had a problem. My biggest problem was rage. Rage for me was a drug. Okay, it was alcohol. It was cocaine for other people. It was opiates for other people. For me it was rage. There was no greater feeling than being extremely mad, where nothing can stop you. Right? I would always get in fights no matter what. I wouldn't start them, but I wouldn't de-escalate. I would just be like, okay, someone bump into me, let's go. No reason. I had no way to funnel this rage, so I would just, whoever. That's when I realized my biggest problem wasn't that I was full of rage. It's like I had no output. I had no way to get it out. I had no way to talk to people about it. I avoided vets like the plague because to me, every vet I saw was a bro vet. They all talked about guns, the range, and me, I didn't do that. I wasn't into it. I don't know why. I love guns, don't get me wrong. I carry every day. I just wasn't the guy who has 70 guns on his wall. This wasn't me. So, 4th RV park I get evicted from. So I take my RV to a Love's off of 20, or a Pilot, park it there until I can figure something out. Well, I ended up living there for 3 days till the police show up, saying, hey, you can't live in this parking lot. I'm like, I'm not living here. He's like, well, we can arrest you. And I was like, okay, I'll leave. I was homeless. I had an RV, but I couldn't plug it anywhere. I couldn't afford anything. And then I get a call from my mom, who I haven't spoke to in about 3 years. Hey, we have an opportunity. We want you to come in and grow this business with us. And at first I thought she had the wrong son. So I'm like, obviously you have no idea what's been going on in my life, or else you wouldn't want me to run a business with you. But she started over, remarried. She was working on her life, and I was a part of it. So I did the same. I was like, you know what? Let's turn over a new page together. So I said, okay, but I can't afford anything. I can't afford rent, nothing. I live in Terrell. She lives in Colleyville. It's a big difference. She's like, well, you'll have to live with us. I'm like, you want me to live with you? I'm like 25. I can't live with you. I don't even know you. So I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. I said, honestly, I was at the point where you just have to say, F it, why not? There's nothing else to lose at this point. Why not try something new? That's scary. That's challenging. So I did it. Moved all the way over here. Didn't know anybody. Started over number 6, right? 6 times starting over. And lived with her. for 10 months. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because her and I got to start over again. We got to start a business together. Our first year I figured out, and this was 2016, that's when I realized I was addicted to business. I was addicted to progressing in life through business. That was my passion. I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up until then. We started a junk removal company, and I said, hey, look, I want to take this as far as it goes. So that's kind of when everything happened. Within my first year, I met my future wife, and my mentality changed. I started talking to more vets. I think I met you in 2016, Carl. I started talking to other vets and other groups of vets. I started to realize that not only was I not alone, people have similar stories to mine, but there's also better ways to lose your shit than in a public place like the bar. Like, you can go to the gym and do it, or you can go out and ride bikes or motorcycles or whatever. You don't have to always be angry at someone. So I started just redeveloping my entire life, and next thing you know it, third year we hit 7 figures in our business. Fourth year we hit 7 figures again, and then in our 5th year, 2020 happened. Our best year ever, because that's when I started getting hungry for growth, and I wanted to look into the future. All I did was hire vets, and I would always point them here first. I'd be like, hey, I'll hire you, but you got to go talk to Carl or Zach down for you. Just have them check you out. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I want you to at least take that first step. June of last year, we sold that company for a really good profit. I had a son. I have a 4-year-old son, Rylan. He was born in 2018, and I have a 3-month-old now. And what's crazy is I realized that whenever I was transitioning out of the Army, I didn't really transition. I free-falled. I went from military to good luck. I mean, I had no guidance, no leadership, nothing. I mean, when I was in South Texas, I actually got arrested on the border. I had a standoff with Sheriff's Department and SWAT team because I had a bad night, and I wanted everybody to know about it. And I was in an RV. You know, that's like Jerry Springer, you know? Well, that night, I tried to have them do my dirty work. They showed up. It was like 1 in the morning. I have all my guns laid out. I'm ready to go. And I even told them, if you come in this RV, I'm going to defend myself to the fullest extent. Are you threatening us? I'm like, absolutely. Please come into this RV. Because at that time, my subconscious was thinking, hey, they're going to take you out. That way I don't have to do it. I don't have to be weak, right? I'll go out fighting. What's crazy is nothing happened. Obviously, I'm standing here today. Didn't get shot. Hell, they didn't even tase me. That's weird. I'm a bigger dude, and I was a minority down there, and you're telling me I didn't get beat up or tased? They had dogs out there. Dogs didn't chew me up. For some reason, I personally believe God was looking out for me, but when they yanked me out of the RV, threw me on the ground, arrested me, took me to jail, the whole time I was thinking, whatever, who cares? I mean, I don't have any friends down here. 4 days later, my dad shows up, right? 8-hour drive, and I didn't even know how he found out I was in jail. But he bailed me out, and I asked him, why'd you bail me out? He goes, you don't belong here. You don't belong in jail. And I was like, I'll wait it out. I don't care. But he was right. I didn't belong in jail. I had a higher calling. My sisters looked up to me at the time. And had I known that my future looked like this, or I have a beautiful family, a couple successful businesses, and a veterans group. I'm a part of a veterans group as well that there are over 2,000 members. And I am a mentor for a lot of people there. Had I known then obviously I wouldn't have done the stupid stuff I did. But it took all that hard learning for me. Remember, I told you, when I was a high school guy, I was stubborn. So that was my way of learning, I guess, throughout life, was the hard way. I didn't like it. It sucked. But now I know how to teach my boys, hey, look, there's 2 ways to learn something, right? Me, like daddy's way, or the smart way. And I'll tell you this, the biggest thing that I can really hold, I guess the biggest thing that I can say that changed me was my son. Absolutely changed everything. People thought, hey, maybe you have an alcohol problem. For me, it wasn't alcohol. Like, it's not it. I can stop drinking. I can drink. I mean, I don't. Like, well, what is it? What's your problem? I go, I don't know. I think people are my problem. I hate everybody. They're like, well, why? I'm like, I don't know. Well, my problem wasn't that. My problem was when I got out, I didn't have leadership. I didn't have someone to take me under their wing and say, hey, there's other ways of doing things. This is probably a real jambled, speech here, but I credit a lot of my growth mentally and also spiritually to the generations around me. I learn from all generations. I don't like learning just from one. I take my dad, my stepdad, my grandfather, guys like Carl, they're a generation behind me, they're before me, and I learn from them. But then I take the generations ahead of me, young bucks, and look at them. I have to learn from them too, because they're smarter than us, and you have to learn from them. And if you're the smartest guy in the room, then you're failed. Like, you're going to fail yourself. So I always try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, more successful, and that also have a couple scars. Because if they have those scars, that means they've seen a thing or two in life, and I can learn from them. Fast forward to today, I just sold my house. We built a house last year, custom home, and we ended up selling it after a year because a huge opportunity came up. I couldn't say no to it, and I'm looking out 10 years from now for my family, building my legacy, and it's a beautiful thing. I started a new business. I have a demolition company and I have a coaching company. I'm also a really big veteran advocate, obviously, but without gallant few like Carl or Zach being here, I've called Zach a couple times, he's called me a couple times, but I wasn't really wanting to jump in too far because I was scared. I was scared to be around people that knew what I was going through because I didn't want to get judged. I didn't want to have a pissing contest. But then I realized it's not that. Like, we don't even have to talk about the military if we don't want to. We can just hang out. It's our first step. So I tell everybody this today. I was like, look, time flies, and you got to take a first step somewhere. I just talked to my dad yesterday. Unfortunately, financially in his business, things aren't the greatest right now. But I told him it's because your pride's in the way. My dad was old school. He worked 30 years for retirement, and he ended up quitting 3 years ago because he couldn't take it anymore. Started his own business. Now he's happier than ever. But he's starting to go down a road that I've been down, and now I'm trying to help him, right? And he can't understand that. So him and I talked yesterday. I had a long drive, and he was just like trying to brush me off at first. I said, Dad, look, I promise you, I've been there. I have physically been there. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm telling you to just think about it. Like, take one step. Knowledge is power. The more you learn, the more you can succeed. Well, he's starting to actually realize that maybe I'm not just some young buck who was in the Army. Maybe I actually am good at something. The one thing I was good at was fixing my mistakes, was growing in a forward position where others are just kind of grow outward. They don't really go forward. They just kind of go outward. I was going forward. I had to keep fighting, because once you reach that point where you think everything's over, there's nowhere else to go. Like I tell people, once you hit rock bottom, the good thing is, like, you're done. Now you just got to go up. I can't even tell you, I remember that. Like, it's hard to remember the bad times of my life that far along. The fact that I was in an RV alone, single, no family, no friends, trying to get people to kill me because I had a bad night, like, because I was sad. Today it seems ridiculous. Like, I can't even fathom that. If someone came up to me and told me that story, I'd be like, dude, you're an idiot. Well, I was that guy. I was an idiot. But hey, now today I have people like y'all around me to help guide me through to the next step. And now it's just going to be a good adventure. And I have a family too, and I can't wait to see how my boys turn out. I get to teach them about business, military, all that good stuff. And to think 6 years ago, 6.5, it all could have been prevented by one change in the system, one trigger pull. It would have all been erased. So that was my little short, brief story, I guess you could say. I appreciate you again for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
You know, I'm glad that the microphone's working this time because I got the really good sound because there's like a riot going on out there. And one of the things that Gallup talks about is this concept of responsibility. Responsibility. You have the ability to choose your response to anything that happens in front of you, right? So I'm sitting back there, I'm getting angry because of all this noise back there. I'm like, these people are disrupting us.
Yeah.
And I took a pause, and I went, it doesn't do any good for me to be angry about it, because if I go out there and yell at them, I'll just look like a jerk, and good. I thought, so I'm going to change it to an attitude of gratefulness, right? What am I thankful for? I'm thankful they're not my kids.
Yeah.
So I was able to switch that around a little bit, put the stuff in action. Anybody have a question for Casey?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Very motivating. But it was also, and I spent 3 winters in my North Dakota.
Oh, yeah.
I know those winters.
I was in Killdeer.
Yeah. You may not have recognized that you had all this rage, early on. But when you got your license to drive, just driving down 114 some morning.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wishing I had a Stinger missile with me so I could clear the path. It seems like that would have been a dangerous choice for you.
Well, it wasn't because I was isolated. So, I never had a job at corporate. After the military, I never had a job where I was with employees.
Okay.
I was always alone. When I was truck driving, it was just me. And I'd go and pick up crude. In North Dakota, you know what it's like?
Oh, yeah.
There's no one out there. And I think in the oil field, they said the population was about 1 million in the entire state. And you're like, really? Okay, that's crazy. Well, that was the other thing is the rage happened at home, after work. The rage happened when we go out, when that would happen, but it's not kids, it's just people. I went to a rodeo, the first week I was out, after I got out of the hospital, I went to a rodeo that was local, Roy Rodeo. Yeah. And it was insane for me. I don't know what was going on, but just being there with hundreds of people, I shut down. I had to stop. The girl I was with, she's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Nah, I gotta go. We have to leave." I didn't know what it was. I was shaking. I felt afraid. Afraid of what? I don't know. Well, the same kind of applies when I'm home, even just with a girlfriend or with my wife at the time. The anxiety levels just shoot through the roof for no reason. Now, if I'm on the road by myself, not a big deal.
So you had a mission, and you could go and complete your mission, which was
I think so.
driving or whatever.
But it was also a bad thing because I wasn't learning how to be around people. Even when I went to South Texas, I was still alone. And then that night that I got arrested, the one friend I had, I called her. She just happened to be in Beaumont. Well, when you're alone, you don't think about tomorrow. You don't think about the next day. You just think right now, what is going on? What's happening? Now, for some reason, road rage never happened with me. I never just spun off. It was always in a setting where I subconsciously knew I was going to get out of, in a way, right? I never went to the bar with an agenda, but I also never went to the bar without one. I always kind of went there knowing, you know what, I'm in my boots, I got my hat, I have a fat dip in, it's going to be rowdy. But now, I can go anywhere. I still don't like to be around a bunch of crowds. I don't feel the same feelings, though, But, I get what you're saying, absolutely. Especially in those trucks. Crude oil is more flammable than gasoline. But, I passed the psych eval. I don't know how.
Any other questions? Hang on just a moment.
Yeah.
We have a tradition of presenting a Gallup coin. I don't know if you have one or not yet, but now you do.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being out here with us and telling your story. One of the things that about your story that struck me is I want you to think of the number 10, right? 10 people go into the military. Of that 10, 6 of them decide they're done after their first enlistment, they get out. Or they get out during their first enlistment, so they don't re-enlist, right? 4 out of 10 re-enlist. but only 1 out of 10 retires. So what happened to those other 3 that decided to re-enlist, stay in, right? Hey, maybe this isn't outside and working for me, or I want to make this a career, and then they get out. They don't stay into retirement. I did 10 years and I got out. There's, for a lot of those people, there is a defining event. You got mistrust in your leadership, right? You experienced bad things.
Oh yeah.
That probably, when you get into a crowd, there's probably some factor of, there are people here that I can't trust, so I don't know what they're going to do, so it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, I was 22 or 23 when I killed that guy, and the first thing he was trying to do was roast me. Like, Sergeant Major was saying, you're going to go to prison forever, and I'm over here like, this is day 3, like, holy cow. And you just get real confused with your leadership. Like, well, what are we supposed to be doing? If they're trying to shoot us, we're not supposed to try to shoot them. And this civilian guy, I don't even know his real name. I wish I did. Like, I wasn't kidding. We called him Captain America. And to this day, I couldn't tell you where he is. I don't know where he is, what he's doing, or anything. He may be dead. But what's crazy is he went out of his way and literally proved, hey, man, this guy had guns. Like, he was shooting at us. He doesn't just driving through a firefight with his kid. And I mean, it's one of those things where the leadership was very temporary. Obviously, he got fired soon. But it showed me that, like, man, you're kind of you're a byproduct of other people's agenda, and you'll never know what they are until it happens, you know? So, yeah, now even today, like, you just don't know. I hate to say it, but, like, I don't even want to put my kids in school sometimes, man. You know, you see it on the news. You do. And we get complacent. I tell my guys this all the time. Complacency kills. They teach you that in the military because it's true. My wife gets pissed when I say it because I say it so much. I was gone for 4 days in Florida, and I had her 9mm loaded, ready to roll on her top shelf, and I had one by the door, the front door, underneath the dresser. We have a little stowaway, and I'm like trying to tell her, hey, look, and she's like, shut up. I'm like, babe, I'm telling you, you just never know. People will look at you and be like, oh, there's a single mom getting groceries, completely complacent. Oh, this is where she lives. There's no one else around. I can follow her to her house, kick down the door. She can't do anything. She has a 3-month-old. What's she going to do? I'm like, that's what they're looking for, because I felt that mistrust, which unfortunately makes me like not trust anybody, which is a bad habit. I don't think it's specifically that reason, that one guy, but it's a part of it.
It certainly might be tied into it, but
yeah.
But that commonality of at least 30% of the people who go in the military having that experience, that knowledge of that commonality helps a lot of veterans know that it's not just me that has a hard time right now. Yeah, right? Well, because a lot of other people had a bad experience in the military.
Yeah, so that's very relevant. And just like some people, right when we got back, when you pass a trash can or a pile of trash on the road, people get crazy, like, oh, you know, I can't say it freaks me out. For some reason, it doesn't. Fireworks, I love fireworks. I love blowing shit up. So, like, 4th of July for me, I'm all about it. But that's because it didn't affect me the same way. Now, when something loud happens, this is what I do. It doesn't make me jump or startle. Why? I don't know. Hell, I got blown up a few times, and believe me, the first thing you do is you check your pants, and then you're like, okay, we're good. But it didn't affect me the same way. Where there's others that are like, they're on the floor within a second, you know? So it's just all about their reaction, I guess.
Well, thank you for telling your story. It was amazing, valuable, and I'm glad that
more of a rambling.
Got a good recording of it. No, it was on point. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it.